Hi, welcome to a special No Power Panel video. We have to talk about Graham Platner. This is a candidate for the Senate in Maine. He has come out and announced before the establishment's pick of Janet Mills, who's the incumbent governor, has decided whether to run or not and has immediately locked up a lot of support. And in particular, today I want to talk about the support that he's received from Bernie Sanders, because he on Labor Day did a whole rally on Bernie's Fighting the Oligarchy tour, and Bernie came to Maine specifically to endorse him and to help him out. And certainly that's likely provided him a lot of support, which is amazing. Obviously, there are issues with Bernie in the question of Gaza and Palestine and Israel. Bernie just fundamentally appears to be a liberal, Reform Jewish Zionist. I These are the kinds of people that I spent a lot of time with growing up. I know this kind of believes in a two-state solution, horrified by what Israel's doing, but fundamentally believes in Israel's existence and right to exist and right to defend itself. And those are points that I vehemently disagree with Bernie on. There are other things that I disagree with Bernie on. I'm not here to simp for Bernie. I'm not here to stand Bernie. I have been a big fan of him during his presidential campaigns and before. I think that there's a lot of positive, good things that he has brought to the progressive left movement. And the reality is, he's just not as far left as I think a lot of us would like to have believed he was earlier in time. And that's been revealed now. There are ways in which to disagree with him in healthy and productive ways in order to still drive home the agenda that, as leftists, we want to drive through. And Bernie aligns on a lot of that, and there are areas that he doesn't. And I don't think that, at least I'm of the opinion, that we shouldn't uh, cut off our nose to spite our face. Bernie is the most popular politician in all of America. And to have that person on side with a progressive agenda that addresses at least a lot of what we would like is a good place to start. I think that that's where Graham Platner is approaching this from. He is more to the left, like a lot of us, than Bernie is. He has no problem calling out what is happening in Gaza as a genocide. And he has been very outspoken about that, and isn't shying away from that in order to try and curry Bernie's favor or anything like that. What I want to do is take a look at a couple of clips of Graham Platner in the recent days since he announced his Senate candidacy, and then share my theory as to what's really going on here, what's going on with Bernie's endorsement of him, what's going on with the way that he is handling things, and where I think things could go from here if they continue along these lines. So, first of all, let's take a look at Graham Platner on Breaking Points with Crystal Ball and Ryan Grimm, specifically speaking about the issue of Israel Gaza and how people have been responding to his outspokenness. Again, he has called it a genocide multiple times since announcing his candidacy. He is very much on side with a pro-Palestine agenda, and this is a very positive thing for him. So let's take a look at him in this clip here.
Actually, I like the fact that people still try to hem and haw on this as both. I mean, I just think it's morally horrific, but I mean, on the flip side, it also doesn't make any sense. Like you can't hem and haw on it, and you're going to get asked about it. So you may as well just rip the Band-Aid off and just deal with the reality that we are looking at. I do firmly believe that even within the last month, the conversation has changed significantly. And I mean, it does seem that history is, in this case, at least when it comes to public perception, trending a little bit towards justice. It's going to be, I mean, we will never be forgiven for what we have helped make happen here.
Maybe.
I think people are starting to realize that, though.
All right, so that is Graham Platner speaking about the issue, being very clear, very blatant that he opposes Israel in its actions in Gaza, that it's a moral failing in every way. And this is something that he has said, and that Bernie has still chosen to endorse him, knowing that Graham Platner has said this. This is important for the point that I want to make coming up. Okay, now I want to look at a clip of Graham Platner on CNN where their entire interview of him was all about the horse race and all about things that don't actually matter to people's lives. You know, will he drop out if Janet Mills decides to run? His opinion on internal Washington politics. But one very important moment in all of that was when Manu Raju asked him if he would support Chuck Schumer continuing as the Senate Democratic leader following the 2026 midterms if he does in fact win and oust Susan Collins from that Senate seat. Let's take a listen to what he said in response.
So to that point, I mean, if you win next year, your first vote would be on choosing the next Democratic leader. That would be Chuck Schumer. Would you vote for him to be the next Democratic leader?
No. At this point, we need leaders that have vision and, frankly, the ability to fight. The things that I've seen recently don't show me a Democratic leadership that has that. And while I don't really have any answers on that front right now of who it would be, I do know that it certainly wouldn't be those who've been in charge.
All right, let's talk a little.
Okay, so that's really important and really key to speak about, because Graham Platner, when asked if he would support Chuck Schumer, who is the current Senate Democratic leader, says no. Full stop, blatantly, just very clearly makes it clear that Chuck Schumer would not have his support going forward. This is a line in the sand moment. This is something that the Democratic leadership under Chuck Schumer is not going to take lightly, because Chuck Schumer's entire ethos and entire agenda for politics is staying the Senate Democratic leader. It's where he spent his entire career trying to get to. He finally achieved that position. He's not giving it up for anything. And to have Graham Platner blatantly say that he is not going to back him and not have any qualms about the electoral consequences of having said that, and to have Bernie Sanders support him as a candidate even while he is saying that, is incredibly key in the dynamic that is starting to exist in the Democratic Party, particularly in the Senate. So let's move on to the final two clips, which are of Graham Platner speaking at the Bernie Sanders Stop Fighting the Oligarchy tour rally that they did in Maine on Labor Day. All right, the first clip we're going to watch from this speech is the single biggest applause line that Graham Platner got during his entire speech, where he had quite a few applause lines, especially with this audience. This was the biggest one. Take a listen.
Our taxpayer dollars can build schools and hospitals in America, not bombs to destroy them in Gaza.
Listen to that applause. Listen to how passionately this crowd at a Bernie Sanders rally is responding to that. That is a key point to make in what we are about to talk about, in how Bernie is responding to this moment within the Democratic Party and what Graham Platner's advancement as the likely Senate Democratic candidate for Maine says about where the party goes from here. The final thing I want to show is how Graham Platner ended his speech at that rally. Let's take a listen, and then we'll talk about what all of this means, in my opinion.
And when we beat back fascism, when we defend our democracy and our freedom, let our freedom be a different kind of freedom. Not merely a romantic freedom. Not freedom that's solely about defensive infringements on your rights, but a freedom that is material. A freedom to not be condemned to scraps and to struggle, but to live with the dignity and fulfillment that gives us the society that we deserve. Where instead of dreaming of a life where we can get by, we can afford a life that allows us to dream. That is the vision. This is the opportunity before us. We will win the primary. We will win the general. And we will show this whole country the way forward. Because as goes Maine, as goes the nation. Thank you very much.
That's an important, as goes Maine, so goes the nation. It's a key message that Graham Platner was put on that stage to say. Now, Graham Platner is the hero of this moment because he is the future of the progressive movement, and he is the one who is actually driving this forward. He is the one who is stepping up to take the positions that we actually need a real progressive leftist leader to take in order to drive it home, especially one who, as sad as it is to admit, who presents as Graham Platner does as a cis white, relatively good-looking dude in a working class area, doing a working class job, being able to talk to real people like a real person. It shouldn't be that difficult to find someone who can do all of those things. There are quite a few of them out there, but for some reason, the Democrats just hate to see themselves win. This looks to be a situation where Graham Platner can take things forward. It's important to note that Bernie Sanders is the one who put Graham Platner on that stage. Graham Platner, and the way that he is articulating himself in all of those clips, in making it clear where he stands on human rights in Gaza, on making it clear where he stands in the Senate hierarchy and towing the Democratic Party line, and making it clear that he sees this as a movement that he is beginning to lead. As goes Maine, so goes the nation. He is setting the stage up for progressives to continue the mantle of challenging the Democratic establishment in a real material way. And in elevating him in the way that Bernie Sanders has just done, Bernie has shown that he is on side with that. He has shown Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Senate leadership that he is an ally to the people who are coming for them. And it is going to be a key point to see who falls where now, because this was a real salvo in a Democratic Party civil war. And to have Graham Platner say the things that he says and take the positions that he is taking, it shows that that Zohran Mamdani was not an outlier, that the socialist left in the States are moving. They are going forward. They are starting to do the work of standing up and fighting back. And Bernie Sanders has shown that if the establishment thought that they didn't like Bernie Sanders, if the establishment thought that Bernie Sanders was the big scary monster in the closet for them, they ain't seen nothing yet. Because this is a direct threat to the establishment of the Democratic Party to say to them, hey, if you don't want to play ball with me, if you don't want to, help me create the kind of incremental change that I want to go, look what's coming behind me. Look at these guys who are on deck behind me from the progressive wing. And you're going to see people who aren't going to vote for you to have your cushy job titles if it means that they don't get results, who aren't going to just accept being blatantly lied to by Joe Biden on a Zoom call in order to get his endorsement. Right? Like, these are the kinds of people that aren't going to settle for the bullshit that Bernie Sanders has been willing to settle for. And in finally actually elevating them, Bernie is saying, hey, Democrats, you better shape up now because look what's coming behind me. Look what's on deck. And I'm going to be there to support them in that fight with my mailing lists and my ability to fundraise like no one ever has before. And that is truly terrifying to the Democratic establishment. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be work for those of us that want to help Graham Platner and this new generation of leftist Democrats win and shape the future of the party and the future of the world. But man, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun watching the Democratic leadership sweat while we make them sweat. Thanks for joining me for this shorter than usual video, and I'll be back later in the week with another full podcast episode. Have a great day. And please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this. And let's all join together in the fight for a better world.